Hey guys, welcome. Welcome everyone. Anza, oh, you wanna get dips on the first facial? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that can be arranged. And we are on YouTube after all. Now, if only this thing would capture. There we go, it's capturing. Wait, why is it? Why am I getting encoding overloaded? Hang on. Why is my stream lagging so much? Let me see if I can fix it real quick, chat. Let me just close this, close it. Okay, better. Hey guys, welcome. Welcome everyone. How's everyone doing? You guys have a good weekend? Do you miss me while I was away working on my new avatar? Are you guys good while I was gone? Hello, Aria. Our Guardian, Panzer, Azura, Oxy. It's been ages, Oxy. I hope you're doing okay. I miss you too, Oxy. How's it going? You guys haven't seen my new face though? You guys ready for the new face? How much do you want it? How much do you want to see the new me? Hang on, I just remembered something. I need to turn on smoothing so that I don't give you guys motion sickness. You moved overseas, so you've been. You moved overseas? Oh, so that's where you've been. Hi, I'm glad to see you again. Hi guys, want my new look? Since you were kind enough to come back after going overseas, here's my new look. Peekaboo. I'm kind of a bit shy actually, cause I'm scared that you guys might not like my new look. Should I show you guys everything? Let me show you now. Okay, I'll review my face, my new face. Just promise not to laugh at me, okay? 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 And... Hi everyone. Hi, welcome. This is what I spent over a week working on. Hi everyone. I've made a couple new changes besides just my new face. As you guys can see, I changed my horn. Gave myself an all new horn. I also changed my ear. And my whole brand new cat ear now. I really like how it turned out. and couple of other tweaks, like down here you might notice that a certain clothing item looks a little bit different. Just a little bit different. The horn seems like it got stars in it. Well, technically that was present in the previous horn, but yeah, I redid the horn a little bit. We did a whole bunch of stuff. Eventually, the girl avatar was gonna get a similar treatment, but not for a while. I still need to make a couple of last minute tweaks, I think, on this avatar, but I really like how it turned out so far. Hope you guys like it too. I spent 10 days working on this. I was so tired. I spent hours just getting worried about, you know, hoping I put things together right. I was really worried. But I think I'm happy-ish with how it turned out. Oh, I just remembered. I'm supposed to do something. Hang on a second. There's one place I forgot to post a link to. I forgot to post my link on Twitter. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Oops. Oh, is it not working? There it is. I have a new face. Wanna be the first to come over and see. Okay, technically if I post this, it's fake news now because you guys were here first. But oh. Hello Shibuya, welcome. How's it going? Welcome. Looks cute. Thank you, Plaza. Well, clickbait, yeah. Sorry. You gotta rely on, gotta use the clickbait because it's YouTube and Twitter after all. Have you seen Sean VR? Have you seen the kind of clickbait he posted? He posts in his thumbnails. His thumbnails are all clickbait, even more clickbait than me. I'm like all the other YouTubers. No, I'm not like all the other YouTubers. I suck. The other YouTubers are actually good. Chat. I suck. I'm still a microscopic YouTuber. Yeah, I don't I'm not, I don't, I, I'm nowhere near and near the quality of the other YouTubers. I suck ass. I'm boring. Nobody wants to watch me. My voice is cringe. I'm just a cringe old harpy trying to be funny. Hi Marco, welcome. How's it going? I don't suck. Yeah, I do suck. I suck so hard and so much. Chat, you have no idea. I suck real bad, and it's not the good kind of suck. So I mean, I love you guys, Chad. The reason I'm here is because of you guys. You guys help me go and keep. You guys make sure I can keep going by being here. I even if you stop by for a couple of minutes. You guys really. You guys give me all the energy I need. Gotta be hip with the kids. Well, I actually don't think I want to be hip with the kids because the only thing I want to do with kids is shove a dildo up their ass. Because kids don't know how to. Kids don't know no respect nowadays. You know, kids just doesn't know. They don't know how to fear. You know, they don't know what it's like to have medicine shoved up their ass. Kids today have it so easy, I tell you. Anybody is old enough knows, right? You guys remember, right? The fear of going to the doctor, not because of injections. Yes, injections are scary, but no, the true fear of going to the doctor is fear of having medicine shoved up your ass. Anybody who's old enough would know what I'm talking about. Yep. Yo, in-game, cutie, in-game. Yo? Oh god, is that supposed to be like, yo, in-game, cutie, in-game, yo, how's it, oh god, no, fuck no. No, I don't want to remember that phase of my life. No, I'm never doing that again. No. Nope, not doing that again. Nope. You can't make me, chat. You can't make me. Oh, chat. Something that I wanted to bring up, chat. Guess where we are? Guess where we are, chat? Come on over here and let me give you a hint. Maybe you guys remember what I'm talking about. Guess where we are? We're on YouTube right now. Which means that I don't have to worry about getting bonked for, wanting to step into that jacuzzi over there. I could jump into the good jacuzzi right now, chat. Should I jump into the jacuzzi right now? I mean, I do have swimsuits. Or for my avatar. Should I jump into the jacuzzi? All around the world. How does that song go? Wait, how does that song actually go? All around the world, it's And you guys know what the rest of the lyrics are. The only reason I know that song is because Game Grumps memed it all so much all around the world, and I don't even know the rest. All around the world. Yeah, that's all. Literally, that's all I know. Because of fucking Game Grumps. You cannot say you've ever had medication that wasn't specifically made for erectile problems shoved up my ass. I had a needle in the buttocks once, but that's different. Oh yeah, you know, getting an injection on your butt cheek, that's normal, chat. But having a pill shoved up your ass, that's 90s medicine. That's what we had to go through back in the 90s, chat. Kids these days don't know what it's like having a medicine shoved up their asshole. That's why why do you think I keep saying kids these days need a dildo shoved up their ass? It's because they don't know fear. They don't know what it's like to fear having to go to the doctor and then being held down and have a pill shoved up your ass. This is what we have to go through, chat. Detected, I don't get medicine inserted rectally into the hole. No, what do you mean white privilege? I'm third world as well. What do you mean white privilege? What? Oh, what white privilege are you talking about, huh? What's this now?
And we'll be where we wanna when you're next to me.
So okay. Fine. Just not be that way. Fine. Then I'm not going to go into the tub. Fine, I'm just gonna stay out here. Fine. Not gonna put on my swimsuit and get into the tub. Not gonna put on my swimsuit. Why, that's not fair. Why, it's not fair. That's not fair. What now? Oh, now you wanna say it's not fair? Huh? Are you venting some kind of deep-seated childhood trauma on us or something? Share the things you say on YouTube. No, listen, Chad, listen, Chad. Getting medicine shoved up your ass is what happens when you go to the doctor and you refuse to cooperate. When you're sick with something and the doctor gives you medicine and you don't listen to the doctor, the medicine, if a medicine doesn't need to be an injection, it's just, it's something that you're supposed to, drink and stuff, and you refuse to drink that, instead of putting it down your throat, they put it up your ass. That's what they did. This is 90s medicine, chat. 80s and 90s medicine. This is what we had to go through back in the day. Kids these days don't know true fear, They don't know true fear. I live from America, Elephant Island therapy. What? I did. I have a lot of difficulty mentioning you as a ladyboy because you're a hunk, Hanser. You're actually a hunk. Really hot muscles. I'm surprised girls aren't tripping over each other trying to get to you. Unless they are, and you just don't tell us about it. you drank your medicine. How is this anyone else's fault? Listen, Chad. It's not about the fact that, you know, kids who behave good don't get medicine shoved up their ass. It's the fact that if you don't behave good, you get medicine shoved up your ass. You know, this is what teaches children, well, little brats, how to not be brats. You don't want to get medicine shoved up your ass. You be a good boy. That's normal, Chad. That's normal over the 80s. 90s. You've always been very compliant with the doctor since you've seen the decent people. I'm getting over and done with one. So better than resistance. Oh yeah, I learned to, you know, share the same thoughts on it. Although apparently I was quite the terror back when I was a little chick and a little harpy chick. Yeah, I refused to listen to anyone. And when I refused to take the medicine, the doctors had no choice but to shove it up my ass. I learned real quick to listen to the doctor. Kids, that's why Chad. That's why kids these days they need to learn fear. They need to have the threat of the doctor shoving medicine up their ass. Then that'll teach them to respect. Yes, that'll teach them fear and respect. Yes, that's what kids are missing these days. The threat of having it happen. It doesn't have to happen. If the kid is good, then it doesn't have to happen. But if the cat is bad, they need to know that if they're bad, that's where the medicine is going. Yep. Hang on. I need to adjust my headset a little bit. Give me 1 second, Chan. 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to adjust my headset. You never got the medicine set, only getting beat by a coat hanger. Oh yeah, the coat hanger, that one also happens. More consequences. Never give unwarranted violence. Could you be dueling gloves? Dueling gloves, that what you mean? Like, take this glove off and you just go, pa! How dare you? Pa! Pa! You know? You dare besmirch my honor? Pa! Pa! Sadly, I can't actually turn this into, like, you know, a glove I'm holding, but you get the idea. Actually, wait, no, it'll be. But if I do it in my wings, yeah, how dare you? Pa! Pa! Why, my honor has never been questioned this way. Pa! Pa! Oh, by the way, Chuck. I think it's time for coffee, don't you? I want some coffee. I want coffee. Everyone, grab your drinks. Remember, it doesn't matter what you're drinking. Or as long as you have here for the one, it can be coffee, tea, beer, root beer, water. Anything you have, chat. It's been way too long since we had a coffee time. Can I say it's coffee time? Because coffee time is technically Dodgers branding. And I'm just gonna say coffee time, why not? Come on, grab your drinks, everyone. Going in 3, 2, 1. Bye. Cheers, everyone. I love that coffee. Okay, maybe I will get into the hot tub. Should I get into the hot tub? I think you guys have been nice enough that I can get into the hot tub. You know, I've never actually been in here before. Hang on, let me make sure that the water's okay. Wait, hang on. I should, before I step in, I should take off my boots. There we go. Am I gonna drop as soon as I... Oh, there we go. It's not as deep as I thought it'd be. Oh well. Give me a second, chat. Ooh, this water actually looks really nice. I can see steam rising up from the water. I put this here and this here. Oops. There we go. I need to learn how to make use of this camera properly. You know, this is actually making me miss being in Japan again. Because when I was in Japan, chat, one of my favorite experiences there was going for hot spring. The hot spring was so good in Japan, chat. Jacuzzi time, yeah. Nice jacuzzi time. I've actually been wanting to take another trip to Japan so that I can enjoy the hot spring again during winter time, autumn or winter time. That's the best time to go to hot spring. It's so good, chat. You have no idea. But unfortunately, I had to put a slight stop on those plants because fucking Corona, and then getting banned on Twitch. But talking about hot spring in this heat right now. Listen, chat, listen. There's a reason why I like all these worlds which hang on, let me Let me turn this off and change this. There's a reason why I like all these worlds with, you know, snow everywhere. It's because it helps me feel nice and cool, chat. Yep. I've been wanting to experience hot springs again for so long. And it's been so long since I did a VR chat stream. I need to learn how to do all the stuff again. There you go. Perfect. What happens if I click this button? I can't remember. Oh, it does that. Okay, this is better for me. So I can see what's going on. Where am I play space, by the way? Oh, I'm a little off center. Let me just move here. There we go. By the way, chat. I'm testing something else right now with regards to YouTube streaming. If the stream ever cuts out and we get a stream paused due to copyright notice, let me know, okay? Let me know. If the sound suddenly cuts out and we get that stream paused due to copyright notice stuff. Let me know, okay, chat? I'm trying to see just how far I can push YouTube's copyright stuff, copyright bots and stuff. Because it affects whether or not I'll be able to do like chill, comfy streams on YouTube like this. There we go. I wonder why the flying is so... Let me try to turn that on, see if it makes flying a little bit less jackets for you guys.
Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days
You know what? I think I'm gonna keep something open so that I can spot chat. I'll be able to spot people warning me, hey, the stream's gone off. If I keep this open. There we go. Hello Epic, welcome. It's been a while. This is the new me. How have you been doing? Have you been doing okay? Oops, hang on a second. Hang on. I just had my tracker come undone. Hang on a second, let me fix this. Hang on, let me fix my tracker real quick. I think I'm gonna have to buy my own Velcro for this. Velcro and fabric, and then sew it on here. Because this is getting annoying. There we go. Okay.
as well just ride around the nursery and count sheep.
One of the things I want to experience one more time is going to Japan and experiencing wintertime hot springs again. If you guys have never experienced it before, it's honestly the best. Okay. Yeah, with this open, I'll be able to see if my stream ever goes offline due to copyright stuff. Let me just move this over here. Hang on, sorry, I need to mess with my overlay a little bit. There we go. Okay. Okay, perfect. Sorry, chat. Had to come closer just not to mess with my overlay. Oh, I really like how this wall looks on my. We have the nice apartment in the background. We have a nice jacuzzi here. So actually it looks really, really nice. I'm kind of glad that Doomy showed us this wall. The shirt looks so cool. Oh. I mean this shirt. Yeah, I'm afraid I forgot to take off my sweater when I got into the jacuzzi, so now it's all see-through, chat. You guys okay with me having a see-through shirt on? Hope you guys don't mind. Hello, oopsie. Oopsie. Has some nice cool features. Yeah. Oh, you have no idea how long I spent getting this to work, right? Or at least look good. Technically, it's an old feature. I just didn't use it that often. Or more like I couldn't use it because Twitch Twitch doesn't like this. Oh, one thing I want you guys to help me test out, chat. Does my butt look okay? I can't tell. Recently, there was a big change in VR chat that changed how the jiggles function, so I'm not sure if it looks good or not. You guys mind helping me test this out? Can't tell if the jiggles look okay or not. just does not look like it's interactable. Should be. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, there it is. It's interactable. I think maybe I just need to mess with the settings a bit more. Let me see. Yeah, it is interactable. I just need to mess with the settings a bit more. But that's okay. It's not showing on camera. It is. It is. It's just very, very subtle. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, you can see I can spread my cheeks. And I can interact with it, but I think I need to mess with the settings a little bit. It's okay though. Those kind of settings are something that we slowly figure out over like time, so don't worry. Speaking of interactables, where's my coffee? Where's my coffee? I need to interact with some coffee right now. Need more coffee. Alright, here it is. Okay, got my coffee, chat. Everyone, grab your drinks. Remember, it doesn't matter what you're drinking as long as you're here for the moment, chat. Can be coffee, tea, beer, root beer, whatever you have, chat. As long as you're here. Going in 3, 2, 1. Goodbye. Cheers, everyone. Hi, Lars. Welcome. Welcome. How you doing, Lars? Hope you're doing okay. Hang on, let me adjust the camera just a little bit. One annoying thing about playing VR with the Vive on is that doing minute movements with the Vive on is so annoying. Everything moves in like such huge increments, it's annoying. There we go. Are my breathing stockings on? They're just normal stockings. Is there something weird about these stockings, chat? Anything weird about these stockings? They look like normal stockings to me. My boobs got bigger? What are you talking about? My boobs didn't change at all. that wasn't one of the things I altered. Hi Numi, welcome. How's it going? Welcome. Yeah, Numi. Your face. Gonna be using this from now on. Numinos. Yeah, that's. Is that Numinos the best Overwatch support player in Southeast Asia? He will study the recordings and you don't even need to tell him. What was that copy paste? Show them the breeding suit. Unfortunately, Wrath, unfortunately, the swimsuit you call the breeding suit, it's been removed. Unfortunately, the breeding suit has been removed. But instead now I have this. Is this okay? You think this is okay as a new breeding suit, if you want to call it that? Hello there, man. Welcome. How's it going? Welcome. By the way, check. Is the music too loud? I can't tell. Let me know if I need to adjust my audio settings. Yeah, how's everyone doing? I missed you. Looked away? I'm busy. I'm fine. Don't worry. Listen, chat. Listen. Choto wears less than me. She wears way less than I do. So we're fine. Yes, go on. So my little t-shirt and pajama. Well, technically, Wrath has a very specific suit that he calls the breeding suit, but yeah, I'm sorry, Wrath. The swimsuit that you called the breeding suit no longer exists. I had to remove it because it didn't fit with the new panties. Yeah, I'm sorry. So instead, this is my swimsuit now. Hello, Mitchell. The other Mitchell. Welcome. How's it going? Naked's a challenge for a warrior. Yeah, totally naked warrior. Yes. Naked warrior is a challenge that I don't mind trying. What? Yeah, I'm sorry, Ra. I'm sorry. This is... Instead, we have this now. Is this okay? Is this... I hope this is acceptable for you, Ra. I put a lot of work into this, and yeah, I couldn't bring back the breeding suit. It didn't fit with my new panties. Unfortunately, because I swapped out the panties, I couldn't keep the breeding suit. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? Huh? Is there anything I can do to convince you to forgive me? Anything I can do? Free me, I was fine prepared for punishment. Oh my. Oh. Angry beating? Oh. Oh, that sounds hard. It's nice. Oh, thank you, Mitchell. It's gonna be a while before I'm able to transfer this new look over to a desktop stream, but that'll be phase 2. the most important thing is getting this ready for VR, where I can run it through its paces, test it out, and once all the testing is done, then I'll be able to put it out and export it to desktop. Actually, give me a second. I need to grab something. Give me 1 minute.
Everybody's wasting liquor, pour until you're jaded and you'll never remember how to grieve. And it's always gonna come around. Taking pictures with the roses when you're lost and found. I've been waiting for you all night, shimmer in the moonlight. Dance for me and crawl right back around. Yeah, city lights, summer lights, 3 a.m. with open eyes, dripping blood in paradise. I don't recognize, stalling out and paralyzed, talking ghosts and empty eyes, dopamine and clouds.
Sorry about that, Jack.
Yeah, criticize.
To grab something. Make sure my platform is working properly. Oh. Oh, that sounds interesting. I'd like to see you try. What kind of world is it then? You think all the machines are perfect? Machines? What machines? What do you mean by machines? Is that a pool? Oh yeah, it's a pool. You wanna see what the rest of the world looks like? I can? Let me bring you guys back. There we go. It's not just a pool, chat. There's a house back there. We were hanging out in the house just now, and I wanted to come here and take a bath in the hot jacuzzi. Let me move you back here. There we go.
You sleep with your silence. You
Oops.
act like you like
Let me change this. There we go.
wanna buy the gold. You're showing 'cause you die for the drama. That cute little
Wait, where am I standing in my play space?
better to
Okay, I'm over there.
down hoping someone could save you, but
Oops. Hang on, let me move myself so I'm in my play space center again.
you're pretty sharp around the edge. You got
There we go.
dreams right out your head. Never good at keeping friends. You're not a nice girl. You're in your own
There we go.
but I won't blame you. No, I won't try to change you. No, 'cause you're not a
Perfect. House in the background. Me in the foreground. Yes, perfect.
nice girl.
Like playing parts and then
Who did you do
pretty cool place. Yep. It's actually a really nice world. I really like it. It's really nice. Also, part of the reason why I like it is because I think it makes me look really good. Do you think so too, Chat?
You would rather keep your clothes dry. You're pretty sharp around the edge. You cut the dreams right out your head. Never good at keeping friends. You're not a nice girl. You're in your own world.
You know, something that Choto Dragon has been wanting me to do recently. Choto Dragon actually wants me to put on a cowboy hat, but I'm not sure where to get a good cowboy outfit. She mentioned that she was going to release her hat over the weekend, but she hasn't released it yet. I'm waiting for her to release the hat. And maybe find a poncho because I've always imagined that if I were a cow harpy, my outfit would be hat and poncho. I need to find a good poncho. A good poncho is really hard to find. I've actually tried to look a couple of times, but unfortunately I couldn't find any. My hair looks new for the model. Technically, the main new. Where is this? Right here, my face. I did remake the hair for the new model, and my horn and ear are also redone. But the hair is old. Just redone slightly. Re-edited to fit the new hair. It is a new face debut stream after all. And, well, new face plus whatever new stuff I did to the avatar. I'm glad you like it. I have a feeling though that the reason the hair looks so new to you is because of the world. The world makes it look better. You know, another thing about Choto Dragon is that she keeps drinking wine and inviting people to drink wine or any kind of alcohol with her, and I'm like, I can't afford it. I can't afford wine. Most I can do is beer, but I haven't been able to go buy beer for quite a while. I think Choto Dragon is a bad influence on me because of how much he drinks wine. Although, speaking of wine and beer and all that, what month is it now? May. Right. We need to prepare to do our anniversary stream in July. This year, normally when we do the anniversary stream, I usually go for hard liquor, but this year I was thinking of doing beer. Specifically, there was a beer that I really wanted to drink. I've been wanting to drink for a long while actually. Sapporo beer. Sapporo beer from Japan. I've been wanting to have Sapporo beer for a long while. It's actually my favorite beer. At least one of my favorite beers from Japan. And every time I go out to buy beer, I've always been like, I can't justify buying Sapporo beer because it's like, how much more? Twice the price of a Carlsberg. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't justify buying a beer that's 2 times the price of a Carlsberg just because I like it. But maybe I can justify buying like a 4-pack of Sapporo beer for anniversary stream. Maybe I'll do that this year. Buy myself a 4-pack of Sapporo beer and indulge in Sapporo. That's what I'm thinking of anyway. Yeah, that one tastes okay. I like Sapporo beer because Sapporo is so smooth. It's tasty but smooth and not too sweet as well. I don't know how they managed to achieve a beer that's so smooth, but so good, Jen. I like drinks that are tasty but smooth. That's why I like going down my throat. Hello there, Yarlock. Welcome. Welcome. How's it going? Welcome to a new face debut. Actually, the guys, speaking of which, do you guys want to know who the mother of my face and my booty and my wait, who did I? Yes, if you guys want to know who the mother of my face, the mother of this booty, and the mother of my hair are, you can look in the description and you can find your links. I don't have all the stuff linked, but yeah. And now I have this prepared. Yes, more expensive you get something. Yeah, I know. It's more expensive, but yeah, you know, for anniversary we should it's okay to indulge, right? During our anniversary stream in July. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Give myself some delicious Sapporo beer from Japan. It's haram. Ooh. It's fine, it's fine. I'm not Muslim, I can drink whatever I want. It's not haram for me. Unless I become Muslim, then it'll be haram. Speaking of Muslims, chat. I've known quite a few Muslim girls who are very how should we say wild. Yes, let's just put it that way, wild. I don't know if I told you guys this story before, but when it comes to Muslim girls, they're either really nice, you know, well-behaved girls, or they're complete nymphomaniacs who sin all the time. There's no in between. Nice girls or nymphomaniacs. There's no in between for Muslim girls. I don't know why. End up in Jahannam if they do. It's fine. If my friend ends up in Jahannam, I'll follow her down there. Don't worry. I'll make sure I'm right there alongside her. Muslim friend, Ahmed. You've introduced him to a few harm things and he... Oh my. Oh yeah. Muslims are like... Yeah, the instant they get away from, you know, people who can punish them for doing haram things, then they just like, ooh, they're like, ooh, all these sinful things that I shouldn't do. Ooh, I want to try it just this once. They're like every female hentai protagonist. They just you know, they feel the temptations overwhelming them and they always fall. Yeah, that's a secret. Mm. You have to keep all of your sinful thoughts hidden inside your head. Where nobody knows what you're thinking of. But your thoughts are still there, so all it takes is just a little push, and then they fall, and they fall so hard. Christian? Oh, Panzer, you're a Christian? Oh, I didn't know. Okay, you turned out perfectly normal. Yeah, totally normal. Actually, I mean, I look at you and like you're a really, really fine specimen of a man. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got that yummy, that yummy,
Mm.
yummy, yummy. Yeah, you got
Nice muscles, you work out, you look really healthy. Yeah, you're really hot. Mm-hmm. Most guys would wish they had your kind of body.
stallion. Ain't no stable, no, you stay on the run. Ain't on the side, you're number one. Yeah, every time I come
Yeah, considering every day you go to work. Go to work? How's that? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that means. Conservative only when you go to work? Not sure what that means. I've been thinking of changing this blindfold for a while. You think this blindfold looks good on me? Sure. I think this blindfold looks. I've been kinda flip-flopping on possibly changing this. This is technically an old blindfold. You think I should change it or no? Silky sleek one? Well, technically, if I want to, I could make it look really silky and sleek just by changing the shader on it. Right now I'm going for a, the whole cyber hexagon thing, but I could just remove the hexagons quite easily. What do you guys think? You think the blue is a bit too strong? I cannot change this very easily, mate. Might fit the new event model more. It might. I'll give it a shot. See how it looks if I were to remove a bit of the shine from the blindfold, because I think I agree, the blue hexagons are a bit too strong. I want something a little bit more what's the term for it? What's the term I'm thinking of? Intimate, yeah. and something a bit more intimate. Mm. Especially when I have this on and yeah, okay. Easy change I can make. How do you put this? My blindfold looks heavy duty and more functional. More heavy duty and functional. Not in a kinky, sexy one, but the fact that it's functional makes it kinky too, doesn't it? Am I the only one who thinks like that? I mean, I need to straddle the line between function and form. Yeah, need to make sure that we get this part just right, especially when we're straddling. This was made for, I suppose. But yeah, I will try to reduce the blue glow of the blindfold just a little bit. Make it look more intimate. Hey Lear, welcome. How you doing, Lear? Welcome. Hope you're doing okay. Actually, I need more coffee. Let me go get coffee, chat. Where's my coffee? Where'd my coffee go? It's here. Everyone, grab your drinks. Remember, it doesn't matter what you're drinking, as long as you have for the moment, chat. Can be coffee, tea, beer, root beer, water, anything you have, chat. As long as you have. On 3, 2, 1. Clean burn. Cheers, everyone. Does it even count as clothing? It's a swimsuit, chat. Swimsuit. We're in a jacuzzi. It's nice and snowing out. Wait. This is our personal hot spring. And even though I'm a guy, I decided to put on a top just in case, YouTube doesn't like exposed chest. I put on a top just to make sure that, my chest is covered. That way it's safer. Extra safer. So yeah, don't worry. Unfortunately, I upset Wrath a bit earlier because due to my new panty bottom, I had to remove my old swimsuit, which he called the breeding suit, and he was a little bit angry earlier, and I had to apologize. But oh, it's fine though. I'm using this as my swimsuit now. Swimsuit, yeah, it's a swimsuit. It's a two-piece. The Venom suit, yeah. You call it the Venom suit. I used to have a swimsuit. You guys want to see what my old swimsuit used to look like? I don't mind bringing it out for you guys. You guys want to see it? It's on the old model though, but I don't mind bringing it out for you guys. You guys want to see it? So that you guys aren't left wondering. Okay, hang on, let me switch. My old avatar before this one. Here we go. Before the new face changes, and so let me put on swimsuit. There we go. There, my old swimsuit. Oops, I forgot to remove my pants. There we go. There, this is my old swimsuit. My old one piece. Sadly, the way this swimsuit works relies on the panty bottom, and I couldn't keep it because I swapped out the panty bottom. Maybe one day this old swimsuit will come back, but for now I couldn't make it work, unfortunately. Which one do you think you guys prefer, Chan? This or the Kalkini top? I do agree that this has its own appeal as a one-piece swimsuit, but it's gonna take me a fair bit of work to get it to, fit right with the new changes and stuff. Yeah, getting it to work with this new panty bottom, it's not easy. Think I got some ribbons on my skin? What? No, it was a one piece. Well, now I've moved on to a two piece. Oh. If you guys really want me to, then yeah, okay. I can try to get the whole swimsuit to work with, my new panties. Those are multiple pieces. No. We need multiple pieces of one piece. And I'll prove it to you, Chan. I'll prove it to you. And prove it to you. Here, I'll prove it to you. You come really close, you can see. This is all just a one-piece suit. Why are you guys shaking so much? Should be smooth. Why isn't it smoothing? Hang on. Let me try to see if I can get this smoothing to work right. Okay, now it's working. I don't want to give you guys motion sickness, but here. As you can see, This is all one piece. A one piece swimsuit to make sure that YouTube doesn't bonk me. I can't just play connect the dots and call it one piece. It's not connect the dots. It's a one piece, chat. Look. It goes from my panty bottoms down here. Flows up over my body. Over my chest to make sure that, my nips are covered, even though I'm a guy. And it goes up to my neck, and it's got some extra parts on my arm. One piece. Perfectly legit one piece. I'm sure you guys agree. Maybe Panzer doesn't agree, but it's fine. If just one guy, Panzer, doesn't agree, then it's fine. Panzer can be a swimsuit Philistine. Oops, hang on. I have to get back into my play space center. Hang on. There we go. Yes, Panzer is the swimsuit Philistine who just doesn't understand. Chat. You just don't understand the intricacies of one piece swimsuits. But oh well, it's fine though. My whole one piece doesn't exist anymore, at least not for now. Until I make it. Disapproving Panzer noises. Yeah, it's fine, chat. It's fine, chat. The rest of you agree, right? That swimsuit is a one piece? You guys agree, right? Oops. And you know what? I've had this glove on for a while. Okay, yes. You guys agree, right? That was a one piece, right? Right? Right, Chad? Right? You agree, right? You better agree if you know what's good for you. Oh, you know what? I think I'm missing the glove. I feel naked without the glove. You guys ever feel like, you're so used to having an article of clothing on you that the instant you take it off, you just feel naked? You guys ever feel that way? Or is it just me? For me, it's the glove. I feel naked without the glove. All the time? Oh wait, all the time? Really? Except for pants. Those can go. Oh yeah. We don't need pants. There's a pants free zone, chat. Off with the pants. We don't need pants with, especially since we're in a jacuzzi after all. No pants for any of us. Nice and comfy.
Falling harder than I wanted to, and they say don't go diving in too deep, but I'm alright.
By the way, guys, if you guys don't know, the person over there, Lear. If you guys were to search for Lear on Twitter, you guys might find some really nice fanboy pictures. You guys like, you know, cute fanboys with spankable butts? Lear Horizon over there. If you can find him on Twitter, you'll see some really nice spankable butt. Oh, you just want to grab the ass and spread those cheeks. Actually, I need to check something. Hang on, let me check something real quick. I need to bring up a browser and because this is something I've been forgetting to do ever since I got back from being permabanned on Twitch. I need to make sure that I have this properly following the right person. Ah, damn. Why can't I find it? Hang on. Yeah, I can't find you. Lear, what's your Twitter? Lear, what's your Twitter? What's your Twitter handle? I need a Twitter handle to make sure I follow all your stuff, but I can't find it. I'm trying to find you. Fanboy. That's the word I was missing. Fanboy. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Is. Oh my. Oh, that butt. Oh my. Yeah, yeah, if you look for Fanboy Lear, you'll see something nice. Unfortunately, I can't show you guys because, yeah, this is, like, you could, yeah, there it is. Let me make sure if, oh my god. Oh. Yeah, if maybe Wholesome Lear, yeah, I found you. Yeah, if you search out Fanboy Lear or Wholesome Lear, you'll find something very nice. Let's just say that, this right here, chat, it's topical to what you'll find. Need more coffee. Let's go for more coffee, chat. Everyone, grab your drinks. Remember, it doesn't matter what you're drinking as long as you're here for the moment, chat. Can be coffee, tea, beer, water, anything you have. As long as you're here. Going in 3, 2, 1. Green pie. Cheers, everyone. Talking about water, you're gonna go get some? Actually, let me check something. I know, I just said that I was gonna check something, but I need to check something else. Now, what time does this... Okay. Speaking of water, I think that was the last or second to last sips of coffee. I don't think I can. I think I'm out of coffee. I need to make more coffee. I don't want to leave. I'm lazy. Chad, can you deliver coffee to me? Can I get some coffee, Chad? Some delicious creamy coffee. I don't mind what I have to do to get it from you guys. I could be back by. You got me some Tim Hortons? You know, speaking of Tim Hortons, Cass actually wanted to buy me a bag of Tim Hortons before. I'm actually kind of curious about the Tim Hortons blend. I want to see if I can find a local supply of Tim Hortons coffee, if they do bags of coffee. I'm kind of curious about Tim Hortons. Because Cass has mentioned it quite a few times, and I wonder how the coffee tastes like. Actually, you know what, Chat? You know what? Let's look it up. I'm gonna look it up right now, Chat. Look it up. Let me just look it up, Chat. Let me look it up. Look up some Tim Hortons coffee. Is there any Tim Hortons coffee around here? Hortons. Can I find any here? What? Oh, wait, what? This is news from this year. Japan's Marubeni plans to open hundreds of Tim Hortons coffee shops, franchises in Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Ooh. They're starting to open Tim Hortons here last month in April. Oh. Maybe I can find one. Oh. Yeah, maybe I can find one. Let me see if I can find some Tim Hortons. Mm. Um, let's see here. Mm, mm, I think it's not open yet, but you're going to start opening soonish. Yeah, they're literally starting to open it. Well, they're only starting operations, preparing to open it now, starting in April. No details are shared on exactly when the first outlet will open yet. Nikkei Asia reported that outlets will start popping up next fiscal year, which begins in April. Plans to expand to hundreds of locations across Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia in the next decade. So, yeah, I have to wait. I just have to wait, but who knows? I might finally be able to buy a Tim Hortons here. Looks like Yuri found a new favorite location. Well, it depends. I mean, I have to see what the coffee's like, don't I? Oops. I think. Oops. Did I accidentally leave you guys with a face full of my body chat? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, chat. I totally didn't mean to. Oops. I'm sorry, chat. Oops. This is an accident, chat. I'm not doing this on purpose. Hang on. Let me. Come on, camera. Why aren't you working? Oh. This Vive one controller is being a pain. Hang on. Let me try to see if I can fix it. Let me just come on, move, damn you. Move, move. There we go, okay, now it's starting to move. Hang on, getting this to move is so difficult, chat. Hang on, okay, I think, oops, I accidentally opened my menu here, and, okay, there we go. Okay, now I'm getting it to do what I wanted to do. It's just flying the opposite direction of where I wanted to fly. Bloody hell. There we go. Yeah, I'm more apps to a model. No. The body is unchanged. These apps you see right here, exactly the same as the previous model. Although maybe I just didn't wear this outfit that often, so you never got the chance to see this, but this has been here for quite a while and hasn't changed. Where is it? Tim Hortons? It hasn't opened yet. They're going to start opening, but they haven't actually started opening yet. So we have to be patient. Just be patient, Jen. Eventually, there'll be a Tim Hortons in Malaysia, and I'll buy myself a bag of Tim Hortons coffee, and I'll do a live taste testing. Get myself some delicious Canadian cream inside me. Tim Hortons is Canadian, right? Or is it American? I thought it was Canadian. Is Tim Hortons Canadian or American? if they literally planned within a decade. Well, here's the problem. I believe the bags that Cass were able to find in Canada were ground coffee. I prefer whole bean coffee. So that I can control the grind on my own. So, if you're able to find a bag of whole bean coffee, then maybe, but there's no rush. If you wait long enough, then the Tim Hortons will open eventually anyway, so yeah. And I'm very patient. I'm a very patient heartbeat. After all, I waited 7 years for the fucking Taco Bell to open and finally get a taste of Taco Bell. I'm waiting for Tim Hortons. It's Canadian, just bleeding out the rest of the world now. And apparently it's being opened in Malaysia through a Japanese franchise holder. I don't know. Yeah, Japanese franchise holder is the one that's handling the expansion, so Tim Horton? Yeah, Tim Horton is opening in Malaysia, apparently. He is just starting to, get the outlets prepared and stuff, so it'll probably be a couple of years before they open, but we'll see. Did I shit a bell? What do you mean? $10 for 100-gram bag of coffee. Yeah, that's actually a lot. We typically get bags in like 250 grams around here for the same price. Yeah, if I were to get a 250-gram bag of coffee, it will come up to about 10 to 15 Canadian, give or take. Although personally my favorite is to go to for the 1 kilogram bag. Those giant 1 kilogram bags. I could get those for about 20 Canadian to 20 to 30 Canadian if I, depending on which brand I buy. Yeah, really nice coffee. Just mostly their food. Oh. Well, I mean, to be fair, places like Starbucks and Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf and stuff like that, they all, and we even have San Francisco Coffee here, and a bunch of different coffee franchises. They usually have, food there. I don't usually go to coffee houses for food. I only go there for the coffee because the food is horrifically overpriced. I just go there for the coffee. Although, every now and then I do sometimes order a coffee prepared by them, but most of the times I buy the coffee bag because I can get like, for the price of how much, 2-3 times a single large serving of coffee. If I buy a bag that's costs like 2 or 3 times that amount, I can get a bag of coffee beans that gives me like 20 servings of coffee. So yeah, it's a lot more worth it to just buy coffee beans. 1 kilogram bag of high beef, just add water, lol. Well, you can't just add water, because of course it's whole bean coffee. You gotta grind them down first, control the grind, and then brew it for about 3 to 4 minutes depending on the blend. Flavor. And then once Once you have that done, then you pour it down into the mug, and then you add your sugar or cocoa powder or milk or whatever, turn into whatever type of coffee you like. I've only tried to swim in a pool of coffee beans. Nah, I wouldn't do that. That'd be wasting the coffee beans, Chan. I'll contaminate the coffee beans. I wouldn't do that. I just request to, grab a giant sack and start filling the sack full of coffee beans and try to take it home. That's what I do. I want to bring all the coffee beans home because there's so much good coffee. Really? Was it breaded chicken? You make food every day? Ooh, breaded chicken. Breaded chicken's nice. Starbucks, yes. Tim's, you find the prices fair for food. Not everyday meals, supplementing cheaper kind. Dear God, I just paid $10 for a shit sandwich. I don't think there is any kind of cafe around here that could serve one of those foods that's not horrifically overpriced, but it's fine though. It's fine. You're gonna go. Oh, puzzle. You're going to bed? Okay, hang on. I give you a proper good night puzzle. Thank you so much for being a puzzle. Thank you. Sweet dreams. I'll see you again soon, okay? Thank you so much for following me, no matter whether I'm on Twitch or YouTube or even on Translate. Thank you so much for following me no matter where I go. Good night, puzzle. And if anyone has had to go to sleep as well, thank you guys as well. Coffee lasts longer if you use them out. Yep. Ever since I started buying my own coffee beans instead of, going out to order it from the cafe, I save so much money on coffee. First time I ordered KFC chicken sandwich, the chicken was tasteless and they put a bottle of mayo on it. Oh no. I'm sorry that your KFC is awful. Coffee bean now, your pocket's weighing you down. Your pants like the end of the DuckTales movie. I haven't seen that movie in so long. I used to love watching it. So sad people don't know how to make food in a restaurant. And you laugh, well no, usually. I mean if they're good chefs then they know how to make food in the restaurant, it's just that they have to upcharge it, Also, Chan, let me go to the restroom real quick. I need to go to the washroom. Let me go to the washroom. I'll be right back, Chan. Let's everyone take a short 3-minute break. So you guys get up and stretch your legs as well if you've been here all this time, okay? Guys, it's important to make sure to get up and stretch your legs, alright? Go to the washroom if you need to, or go to the kitchen to grab some drinks or snacks. Whatever you need to do, now's the time to do it. I'll be right back.
fast on open roads, missing every sign, saying we should change our minds and slow down. Red lights fly by, you're all I see. Talk is cheap, babe, say you know me. Need you to show me. No one has to know. Just you and me and ways to go. Love the way your eyes never look nowhere but mine. Yours now. You like to come and go. Drive too fast on open roads, missing every sign, saying we should change our minds and slow down. Red lights fly by, you're all I see. Talk is cheap.
Alright, I'm back, Jack. I'm back. Jack, by the way, I think we've been in the pool long enough. Let's say we go back into the house over there. Shall we go back into the house, Jack? Let's find ourselves a nice place we can hang out in that house. Let's go. Into the house we go. Where we want to be. Let's see where we can have good lighting. Oh, the lighting is so nice. Oh. And let me fix my. There we go. Yeah, ooh, the lighting is so good. I'm still a bit wet from the time in the jacuzzi, but you guys don't mind, right? It's okay if I'm just a little bit wet from being in the jacuzzi chair. I'm sure it'll dry out eventually. Or, I wonder how the lighting is over there, because I feel I want to put you guys down on those nice soft looking sofas. There, let me put you guys down here. I'm gonna put you guys down on the sofa right over here. Let's get away from like that's too strong. There we go. Perfect. You work at L&L BBQ now, right? Oh, I hope it's good. Can't imagine working in a BBQ and the food, that's awful. So I hope that the BBQ food is good. Okay, let me see if there's anything important I miss. Isn't it late for me? Yeah, it's 4 in the morning right now. But oh well. I'm used to being up. Actually, you guys want to help me dry up, chat? Do you mind helping me towel off? Maybe put some lotion on. Help me spread some moisturizer on my skin.
Deep in space and I wanna make another big mistake while I got ya. Feeling so tempted, yeah, I'm in awe now. Here we go. Come and play with the fuck ups. Nothing's gonna take away from my drama. Now we're gonna place the blame on the trauma.
Actually, there's something I want to test out, chat, since we're here and out of the something important I want to test out. A slight redesign of a clothing item. Here we go. This used to be a black and white thing purely, but I did a slight redesign. What do you think? You think this looks good? You think this looks okay, chat? This little apron? Trying to make it look good. It's a nice velvet looking black. I'm glad you guys like it. And there goes the nice velvet looking black. What do you mean? Still here? Yeah, you can see. Nice velvety black. Yes, there's nothing odd about this apron, chat. Nothing at all. You see? Nothing at all. I think I like how it looks, chat. The last time I used this apron, I felt like it was missing something, so I redesigned it a little bit. Redid the texture, even redid some of the UVs to reduce some of this effect. And oh my, you could have some milk right now. Oh well. I mean, could try to get some milk for you right now. Actually, no, I can't get it for you right now. I'm sorry. I'll have to be later. That's really cool. Oh, I'm glad you guys like it. Actually, hang on. I need to recalibrate. Give me a second. Sure. Let me put you guys over there real quick while I recalibrate. I have a feeling that my tracking is a little bit off. Let me fix it real quick. Oops, sorry. My controller accidentally hit the mic. That's okay over there, chat? Hang on. Sorry, regulars would already know about this, but I'm very anal about calibrating. There we go. Okay. Push it back on the sofa. Sure, you don't mind later. Later. I'm actually kind of torn between this apron and a different apron. Do you guys want to see another apron that I was thinking of using, Jack? I can show you. There's another apron I've been thinking of using that I unfortunately at in the end I decided not to because I already have this apron. But there was another apron that I was thinking of trying out. Let me see. Okay, let me see if I can find the apron for you guys. I'm on the website now. Where is it? There. This apron. You guys over here real quick. And let me turn off focus real quick. Okay, there we go. And bring this over here. There we go. And okay, I was thinking of trying out this apron right over here. A more proper one-piece apron. I considered buying it a couple of times, but in here I decided not to because I already own this and I wasn't sure if it would be worth it for me to. Oh, damn. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should spend the money on this new apron. I considered it, but yeah. You think this apron would be worth getting, Jack? I'm not sure. I mean, let me change my clothes real quick. What do you guys think about it? There we go. That way I'm not just standing in front of you stark naked. Not sure. Yeah, I know, right? I've been thinking about it for quite a while. Basically just, flip-flopping on it. Should I get this? Should I not? I'm not sure. Should I? Should I not? Keep thinking about it. It looks nice. I like the huge ribbon at the back. But I'm not sure, Chat. I'm not sure. I have to think about it. Oh well. We'll think about it some more, I think. Actually, wait, I don't think I need to have my, oh. Let me, yeah, okay. Oh, chat, I'm not sure if you heard that buzzer sound just now, but that's my low battery buzzer. For some reason, my problem controller, the controller that has problems with its battery and stuff, it didn't charge properly last night. I don't know why. So I only have about 20 minutes, half an hour worth of battery left, unfortunately. I don't know why this problem is coming back now. It's annoying. Sometimes I have this problem, sometimes I don't, and it's yeah, it feels random whether or not I get that problem back with my batteries. But yeah, it means that I can only go on for another 20-30 minutes, but I wanted to try to keep going until Choto Dragon starts streaming, because I wanted to say hi to her. Wanted to kind of like throw you guys over to Choto Dragon. Do an unofficial raid. Choto Dragon has done a lot of unofficial raids, and she's unofficially raided me a few times already, so I want to return the favor. I think I have an idea, chat, of how I could try to unofficially raid her, but in order to do that, I would have to... Wait, no, I don't need to do anything weird. I could just do this. Okay, hang on a second, chat. Yeah, we'll use this. Okay, give me a second, chat while I grab... Wait, this thing feels weird. Hang on.
Why does this feel weird? Okay, no, it's okay. I just remember, chat, that I have power banks, and the whole point of having power banks is so that I can plug this controller in to the power bank and charge it when it decides to fuck me over like this. And
you know what?
I'm gonna do it right now. And for a moment there, I was a bit worried because I was feeling one side of the power bank was weird, like, and I was worried that the battery might be bulging a little bit, but I felt around a bit more and I realized it wasn't the battery bulging, it was just the casing, a natural edge of the casing that I never bothered to explore actually.
Oh. Okay, let me get this power bank on.
Okay, let me on this. Strap this power bank on, and actually go nuclear. Yeah, if a little tip for you guys, chat, if you ever notice that a battery is bulging, dispose of the battery immediately, safely, because a bulging battery means the battery is starting to break down, and as in physically break down, and it might explode one day. So yeah, do not keep using a battery that is bulging. Get rid of it immediately.
Okay, controller's plugged in, so I can keep going for one more. Yeah, the power bank next to your head does 3 times. It's like, get rid of it, Panzer. That's dangerous. That's so fucking dangerous. This. what? What if the power bank exploded? Don't use power banks that are bulging. If they're starting to bulge, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Throw it away. Don't use them. Don't. That's like surefire way to have it explode next to you, and you get horrible burns and stuff. So yeah, no. Never ever use a power bank that's starting to bulge. Or any battery that's starting to bulge. Yeah. Make sure you replace it or dispose of it and replace it safely. Or sleeping while charging your phone. Oh god. Oh my god. I'm scared for you, Panzer. Please be careful. We did hear the horror stories about the Samsung Galaxy S10 was it, or S5? I keep forgetting which number it was, but how it was considered such a dangerous weapon that the military didn't allow the phones onto their base because it was an explosive hazard. And Samsung had to recall it because the military considered an explosion hazard. Samsung Note. Oh, so it was the Samsung Note 7 that was blowing up. Okay. Yeah. Make sure you guys are safe with your power banks, right? Actually, you know what, chat? Let me do this. I want to keep the stream going until we can do an unofficial raid of Choto Dragon. I want to return the favor to Choto. Give her back some of the love that she's given me, because Choto Dragon actually helped me a lot on YouTube. She found me on YouTube and just on my own, from not knowing me before, she found me on YouTube. She taught me stuff about YouTube, and yeah. Oh, plastic is separate, the cell melt, touch each other. What you saw by your home experiments. Oh, okay. Well, that's Samsung's problem after all. Oh, chat. Speaking, changing the subject a little bit. Even though it's still going to be a while before I can get back to running Pathfinder, because I want to make sure that, you know, for this avatar, I want to make sure that I can get this face prepped for desktop streams before I go back to doing Pathfinder streams. So it's still going to be like a month before I can get back to Pathfinder. But one thing that I did, even though I haven't been preparing much Pathfinder stuff in the meantime because I've been busy with this, but I have been thinking of scenarios I could throw at my players in Pathfinder. Teehee. Some nice fun scenarios. Teehee. You already miss Pathfinder. Yeah, I know, I miss running stuff for you guys as well, but don't worry. Not only am I using the break to work on the avatar, I'm also using the break to recharge my creative juices and build up on ideas for season 2. And I've been just, you know, in the middle of doing stuff randomly and chilling. I didn't think I've let, inspiration hit me whenever, and I have a couple of nice ideas to offer a good go with you guys. Are you guys excited for what's about to happen in Pathfinder Season 2?
I shouldn't say about to happen because it's still a long ways off, but yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Are you guys looking forward to it?
You don't get to say goodbye, erasing the pain inside.
Keep those ideas as just ideas, please. What? No, it's fun. It's fun ideas. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it a ton.
I
Hi, Choto.
My batteries are running out. I want to unofficial raid you, Choto. Return some of the love.
By the way, Choto, new avatar.
Already all done. Well, I mean, I still think I need to do some minor tweaks to it, but
Yeah. New face. Brand new face. I was really nervous unveiling it earlier, but.
yeah, brand new face and technically,
Modified apron. And new panties. Oh, the new avatar smell, yeah. Although technically,
a lot of the stuff came from the old avatar.
it's the
biggest things that are actually brand new that aren't carried over from the last avatar is the
cat ear, the horn, and the new panties. And the panties are completely new. New panties that I just bought. Which I'm really happy about, actually. Actually, you know what? Regarding these panties, yeah. Moon Hollow, and I can't remember who else was there, but I'm fairly certain Moon Hollow was involved, and a few other people from your Discord were involved, Choto, but the guys from your Discord were involved in helping me decide to get a new panty, new thong. And I'm really happy I committed to getting this new panty. Turned out really nicely. We spent a couple of hours just now chilling in that jacuzzi over there, and now we're just chilling out here. Chan helped me dry up and put some lotion on earlier. They help with the artistic, yes, artistic direction. Yeah. I
actually went onto Choto Dragon's Discord a couple of times and I'm like, guys, I need input.
Guys, I need input.
What do I do?
Do I do this or do I do this?
This happened I think 2 or 3 times while I was
putting this avatar together. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. No more TDA, no more TDA cat ear, no more Sims horn. Now everything is bought and paid for. Super cute. Thanks, Choto. Eventually my girl avatar is going to get the same treatment, but not for a while. I need to get this avatar exported for desktop streams first before I commit to performing the upgrade on the girl avatar.
And right now it's a little bit hard for me to put my left hand on my head because this left hand has a power bank strapped onto it because my controller's battery is breaking down.
All I have to do is keep going for another 30 minutes. Once 30 minutes passes, Chota Dragon will go live and
We'll do an unofficial raid of Chota Dragon.
Scuffed VR live, yeah.
This power bank I have on my wrist right now that's feeding into this shitty breaking down battery Vive 1 is actually a Rebuff Reality power bank that I originally got for my foot trackers. But now I don't need it because I upgraded to Vive 2 3.0 trackers, so I was like, you know what, I can just use the old tracker power banks for my shitty breaking down Vive 1.
Well, it works.
It feeds into the Vive 1 battery and it's actually charging it.
So,
I've been stuck on a memory, but it's not like I need it. And you may have some history.
it's not a cutie stream, it has no scuff, yeah. Yeah, that's how we do around here, chat.
We do things live and we roll with it.
We roll with the scuff, yeah.
And also because the main reason why I wanted to do the debut on YouTube instead of Twitch because Twitch would hate this.
You see this outfit? You see this outfit?
Twitch would hate this outfit.
They would ban me, perma-ban me again so fast for this outfit.
I just need to clear my head.
Guess who just got
Just got a 3-day ban
not me.
on Twitch, but someone big just got a 3-day ban on Twitch.
I just need to clear my head. I just need
You're talking about it on my Discord, but do you hear who got a 3-day ban on Twitch, Chotto?
I just need to clear my head. I just need to. I just need to clear my head. I just need to. I just need to clear my head. Can't focus. I can't forget.
A second. AD? Mama Dragon got bonked, yeah. AD got bonked.
To be fair, I'm kind of surprised that AD took so long to get bonked.
By Twitch, considering what he does.
AD makes so much jokes.
On Twitch is not fun. It's crazy.
I mean, it is funny, but yeah, it's
It's crazy how many
jokes AD makes, and
like he never got bonked for any of them, and now he finally got bonked. Took him that long, yeah. It's
I'm going to
say it's
Twitch playing favoritism as usual.
and he was the one that bring in the bread on Twitch. The breed?
The bread.
Bread.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. AD is actually really big. AD was actually the person who inspired me to use this particular face for my upgrade. this is the face that's also used on AD's newest model. You know, the model that's wearing the kimono that basically has nothing. Here's the face. I considered using this face a couple times before, but I was like, I'm not sure. But then when I saw AD using it and demoing, I was like, oh, this looks good. Oh, this looks really good. Okay, I think I'm gonna use it.
You gonna go to bed? Okay.
Okay. Come here, Lear. Come here. Let me. I wish you good night. Come here. Good night, Lear. Sweet dreams. As well, okay? Thanks for coming. We're going to be raiding, well, unofficially raiding Chota Dragon soon, so... Sweet dreams. Okay, let me put my headphone back on. There we go. Really? AD also used this face? Yeah.
This is the same face?
The exact same face that AD is using. Well, I made some modifications to it, and the version that AD is using probably also has some modifications to it, but this is the same face. And yeah, AD demoing this face convinced me that this face is worth using, because AD makes it look so good, and technically the avatar maker also made it look so good. Oh, the Kit Basher made it look so good, and the model maker also, the asset maker also is really good for creating the base from which I worked on it to modify and create my own version of it. I've actually made some pretty significant changes to the face too. You know, for one, make it my own, and for two, to cover up some of the issues that came with the face, but in the end, it turned out very well. I'm really happy with the final result. How good is it for face tracking? I have no idea, because I don't have face tracking.
Although, okay, let me rephrase. I do have an iPhone. I have not conducted the upgrade yet. The reason why Pathfinder is not returning for at least another month is because I'm going to spend a month trying to learn how to implement iPhone face tracking for YouTube desktop streams. And that's gonna be hell. I'm probably gonna shortcut the process a lot, but
Yeah.
that's the reason why Pathfinder won't be returning for at least another month, because I want to try to export this, prep and export this for desktop streams first.
So I'm gonna find out eventually how this face, how adaptable this face is for
iPhone-based face tracking, but something that I will mention is that there is one glaring downside that I had to work on to fix for the eventual face tracking. Hang on. Let me explain this to you, Chatos, because you're an avatar editor and making Kitbash as well. This is something you'll want to know. This asset, has a problem with the mouth that I had to fix up. Let me see here. Okay, if you guys don't mind me just doing a little bit of avatar talk with Choto Dragon. Okay, it has a problem with the mouth specifically that I had to fix up, or at least get started on the process of fixing up. That took me, I think, 1 to 2 days of work. And the problem with the mouth is, like, you know how most people, when they do the eyes and the mouth, it's basically just a well, right? It's a, was it convex or concave? I keep forgetting which one. But it's basically just a bowl that the eye sits in, and then for the mouth it's also just a bowl that the teeth and the tongue sit in, right? Like, you know, that's how most people do it, right? The eyes are a bowl that's connected to the face mesh. That's fine. But the mouth is not connected to the face mesh at all. In fact, the mouth is a disconnected mesh that is almost like a cap, like a little cap inside the face mesh, and it's not connected to the face mesh at all. In fact, the mouth interior doesn't have any blend shape data in it at all. It doesn't interact with any of the blend shapes that the face makes. Because of this, when you are, like, for example, right now, combining blend shapes, like I have an expression on and I'm talking, if I did not fix it, you would see the little cap mesh of the mouth clipping through the bottom of my lip a lot, and this happens very frequently because of the fact that the little internal cap shape that makes the mouth interior is not connected to the face mesh, and there's no blend shape data. It doesn't move out of the way when you use shape keys. So what I had to do was I had to excuse me, sorry. I had to go into the mesh and physically connect the internal mouth to the face mesh myself, and then I had to modify every single blend shape that I think would cause issues when I talk, so that the internal mouth mesh moves out of the way when I'm talking. This is a problem that I ran into partway while performing the upgrade. That's why the upgrade took longer than I expected. I had to spend, I think, was it 2 days just fixing up the internal mouth and fixing up the blend shapes. It's just a little warning that I feel like should let you know, because you cannot see that problem just from looking at the Gumroad page. But once you get the actual asset into Blender and you look at it closely, and you will be able to see the gap between the internal mouth and the actual face mesh. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that I fixed it, if I were to turn like so, if I did not fix the mouth, you would see a hole between my lip and where the internal mouth is supposed to begin. So yeah, just a little warning, as from one avatar editor and maker to another. this is something that you're gonna have to fix if you intend to use this asset, which I did. But yes, for other people, it may be more trouble than it's worth if you already have a hit that you really like.
I just wanted this head because this head, this fact mesh, has a really good resting bitch face. I like having a resting bitch face. So
That's why I went for this head, and just to get the resting bitch face was worth it, all that trouble. Okay, yeah. Avatar editor talk over. Need advice on D&D at some point?
what kind of advice do you need on D&D?
I can give you whatever advice you need based off my extremely limited experience of just running a single campaign. I mean, I know DMs who have run many more campaigns than I have, but I could give you advice as a beginner DM.
Excuse me, sorry. I'm fine. I'm okay. Let me drink some water.
Don't worry, Chad, I'm okay.
One thing I noticed since doing voice acting a lot, or any game that requires it, especially games like Nikkei,
My throat has been getting sore a lot easier now. If I spend too long talking. It's happening faster, but it's probably because of all the stress that I put my throat through, that I place on my throat whenever I do a Nike stream,
and
I voice act all the characters, you know?
but it's fine though. I enjoy it, and I'm sure you guys enjoy it too.
Everyone, last cream pie of the night, grab your drinks, everyone. Remember, it doesn't matter what you're drinking as long as you're here for the moment chat. It can be coffee, tea, beer, root beer, water, anything you have, chat. As long as you're here. Grab your drinks, everyone.
Going in 3, 2, 1. Ping pong. Cheers, everyone. Alright. Alright, that's the last bit of coffee.
In fact,
That was mostly cocoa. Hot chocolate. Well, now it's cold chocolate. Cocoa.
let me drink some more water.
Right. Check. Check.
I'm sure Choto Dragon has gone off to start her own stream already. Or at least go to prepare to start her own stream. So we're gonna prepare to say to head on over to her as well.
Let me get ready to.
Toss you guys over. Unfortunately, this isn't a thing that can be done automatically yet.
It is possible to raid on YouTube, like officially raid, but unfortunately, only YouTube partners can do it, and I'm not a YouTube partner yet, so I can't do an official raid. So we are gonna do an unofficial raid.
In the next about 5 to 10 minutes, we'll give Choto time to start up a stream. Also, hello Peanut. Peanut, I'm sorry if I missed you in chat.
I'm sorry. Hope you're doing okay, Peanut. Roxanne, Roxanne. If you guys like booty, hope you guys are looking forward to Choto's stream because Choto always has lots of booty. Mm-hmm. The amount of booty she has is,
Although Choto Dragon has different taste of music.
I prefer smooth, chill dance music. Choto prefers
Electronic, techno.
things like that. So if you guys like that kind of music, make sure you guys join me and heading over to Choto once she goes live.
I'll let you guys know.
Give you guys one last serving of cake. Hi, Chen.
It's time for us to go through our usual end of stream stuff.
Everyone, thank you so much for being here. Whether you're lurking or chatting, I love y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed today's stream. Hope to see you guys next time, alright?
As usual, let me thank my extra mile supporters. Oops, I accidentally left my Brave window open. Let me thank my extra mile supporters. Thank you to... you know, I should really make those bigger.
Hang on a second.
Let me make them bigger so I can read them.
There we go. Oops. Oops. There we go.
Wait, I think I made them too big.
Yeah.
Make them a bit smaller. Oh god, they're misaligned, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine, chat. It's fine. It's fine. Thank you to Lucky, Crop, Ras, .gov, Oxy, and Maka for always giving me a big tip energy.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, thank you to Lear, Maka, Sakito, Kylon, Lucky Shoe, DJ, Cass, God Reactor, and Dova112 for supporting me on Patreon advancedly. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, thank you.
Hi. This hurts.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's not gonna be here for much longer.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. There, it's gone. It's gone.
The misaligned black spots are gone.
There you go. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, remember to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Leave a comment if you want to. Gotta fit the YouTube algorithm after all. Remember to check out all my socials down below. I have Discord, I have a Twitter, I have at Twitch, and on Twitch I've been streaming a lot of Nike recently.
Yeah.
I do Nike on Twitch just because
Yeah.
I don't want to think about Nike streams. I just stream whenever I feel like it. I do a mixture of Death Stranding game and D&D content over here on YouTube, and
Yeah, so technically I have a fan sleep, but I can't link it here. But oh,
okay, so check. Let me see. When is Choto starting?
I'm waiting for Choto to start.
Uh-oh, I hope I didn't.
I hope I didn't make Choto late. Oi, Choto,
Choto,
are you late? Choto.
we're waiting for you to start.
Okay, I got.
Hang on, chat.
Hang on.
Hang on, chat. Uh,
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Landing here. Good night, everyone.
Thanks for coming to my new face reveal.
God damn it.
And god damn it,
Fuck it.
I need to
Typing this in VR is hard.
now we go say hi to a late oops
Baka. Okay.
okay, is that the proper linky? Yes, it is. Okay, follow that link. And link for
More.
Smexy Booty and check no music.
There's no links.
3MD text, there's no links. What do you mean there's no links?
What?
Wait, can you guys not see the link?
I see it.
Can you not see it?
Hang on.
Chat. Let me know this chat. Is there a link there? Can you guys see a link there or no? Oh shit. There, she started.
Hang on.
Go Discord though, it might just be you can see it on your phone. I mean, I know you guys can see it on the stream, but can you see it in chat? That's what I'm worried about. Okay, Arrow says you can see it. Panther says he can't.
Can anyone?
Can anyone else see the link or can confirm they can't see the link? Just look for Choto Dragon on YouTube.
Well,
I wanted to do a proper raid.
fuck.
That cowboy music you hear playing?
That's Choto Dragon. She's live right now.
Oh well, I'll go over to her first. I'll see you guys there.
Okay. Hang on.
Yeah, that's so weird. Why is the... I don't know why. Okay, yeah, I would like you guys to let me know if you can or cannot see links, but maybe we'll test it out in future streams when I have more of you guys' attention. I'll just post a random YouTube link and then we'll see what happens, okay? Okay, well, we'll test it out later, but okay, we're going over the shows again. Okay, bye-bye, Jeff. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Let me put my wings out and fly off. Bye, 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 bye. I'll see you guys over at Chotagayan stream. Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye. Oh, god damn it. Fucking. I said fucking fly! There we go.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.